Welcome to Diversity Matters. This program is designed to highlight the diversity-related activities throughout New Hanover County schools and the greater Wilmington community. I'm Valita Quattlebaum, Chief Communications Officer for New Hanover County Schools. This month on our program, I'm joined in the studio by Ann David, the co-chair of the 2014 Education Bond Committee. We'll talk about the importance of this bond to everyone in our community and just how this bond will benefit every student in the New Hanover County school system. Then in the second half of our program, my co-host Maria Black will be joined by Shannon Smiles, the new Director of Early Childhood Education for the school district. Ms. Smiles will outline her background, her goals, and the benefits of the Early Childhood Education program for the district's children. So, don't go away. This edition of Diversity Matters will get started right after this short break.
Today, about 1 in 5 Americans is living with a disability. Over 50 million people, including many of our friends and neighbors, teachers and co-workers, heroes and leaders. 20 years ago, the Americans with Disabilities Act guaranteed every person the right to live, work, and participate fully in the American experience. We've come a long way since then, and we are committed to making even more progress in the years ahead. Visit disability.gov to see how you can help.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. This month, I'm welcoming Ann David to the studio. Ms. David is a local attorney and a parent who has been involved with the district through the successful Lawyers for Literacy program. She's also the co-chair of the bond committee that has formed to support the education bond referendum that's on the November 4th election ballot. Ms. David and I will discuss why the education bond has the potential to positively impact our schools, our community, and our future. Welcome, Ann, to the program.
Thanks, Valita. I appreciate you having me.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're so involved in the community.
Well, like most parents, you start out volunteering when your children are first in elementary school. And as they got older, I just seemed to get more involved. I did a lot of tutoring and working with kids before EOGs, and then that just kind of evolved into other programs like the Lawyers for Literacy program. We work with just literacy for elementary school students, and overall, I think when I was New Hanover County PTA president, I realized that the issues we had were not just in the schools that my children were in, but there were issues countywide, and I really then, I guess, evolved into caring about all the students in our county and making sure we had good schools countywide.
That's so great. We need parents like you. So what made you feel led to join the bond committee, and not only join it, but you're one of our leaders of it?
Well, in looking at all the different schools and visiting them, whether tutoring or just in there helping out, I realized that there were some big needs in our schools, and there's just not the money available in our economy to make that happen. And the bond seems to be the only logical way to get the funding necessary to bring our schools up to where they need to be for our students and for our teachers.
So have you learned more about the school since you started this committee?
I have. I have gone to more of the schools. I had visited just about every school in the county, but I took a closer look, especially at the schools that are going to be rebuilt with the bond funding. Mm-hmm. And it's tragic to think that elementary school children are going to some of the schools like College Park and Blair in the state that they're in. And that bond funding is really necessary to make that happen, to make those schools what they need to be for those students.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, College Park, it's a great school, and it is a great school, but why do we need to replace that school?
Well, College Park is, when it was built, it was a great concept, the little cottages, and it's such a nice community feel. But right now, those buildings are sorely out of date. They have bundles of wires that run along the ceiling, that are held together with the zip ties, and the lighting is substandard. It's very dark in there, and the students have to go outside to get to the cafeteria, to the library,
to the main office.
Yeah, to the main office. Anywhere they go, they have to really go outside in the elements. And with all the rain we've had lately, that's a tough thing for them to go out. Plus, it subjects them to security risk. being out there in the open, going from one building to the other. The building just needs to be brought up to date, and it would be, with that school as well as many of the schools that are getting renovations, not just being rebuilt, it brings them into a more economical stance for operation. Some of the HVAC systems and the operation systems in these schools are just so out of date that they're costing more in power bills than what we would save if they were all brought up to date, and they would run more efficiently, as well as the air quality that these buildings will have just need to be improved.
And what about Hoggard and Laney? I heard people say, well, I don't want to pay for a gym. Why is it more than just paying for a gym?
Well, it's a gym, but it's actually their auditorium, their facility to put all the students together. Right now, Hoggard and Laney have a gym that is equipped for a 2A high school, and both of them are 4A high schools. They can barely get like a freshman class in there. When they had open house and had their freshman classes come in, they could barely get them all in the gym.
So if the principal needed to get all the students in the gym right now, they couldn't do that.
For the worst case scenario, for an emergency situation, if all the students need to be consolidated in one spot, they have no place for those students to come. And if the principal wanted to have a cultural event, have a speaker come in and speak to the student body, they would take all day to have that occur because they'd have to have one class at a time and may have to even break it down further than that. But we have Hoggard also is getting a cafeteria. Most of their students now eat outside on picnic tables because the cafeteria is so woefully undersized.
I've seen that. I've even seen students sitting out in the hallway eating on the floor.
They do, and they just sit wherever they can. And they've had community projects, and the carpentry class has built picnic tables and everything to give them space. And also New Hanover High School will receive a great change with the bond because the George West building that houses all their career technical classes, that class really needs to be brought up to standard so those students can get the most from those classes and make that facility not only safe but brought up technologically so that they can excel from the classes they take there.
Right. So we know that most people agree that this is something this community really needs, but let's talk about that issue of cost that nobody really wants to talk about. How much is this going to cost the average taxpayer, Ann?
Well, if we look at all the discussion over the increase in taxes, quite frankly, the last 2 times we have brought an educational bond to the ballot, they have done the same thing. They've discussed the tax increase, and none have occurred. There was no tax increase with either bond. It's just because the school system is such great managers of their money, and actually those bonds, they did what they had slated to do and had extra money to do other projects. So that shows how great they are with managers of their money. Even with this bond, there has been an indication that at the very worst, we may look at a 3-cent increase.
At the very worst.
Yeah, at the very worst, a 3-cent increase on the property tax. And to put that in perspective, if you look at a home that it's $200,000 home, then that equates out to a $5 a month increase in their taxes.
Not $5 a week,
$5 a month. Yes,
right.
Which is equivalent to what we may spend on a cup of coffee or
from Starbucks or Port City.
Absolutely. Or just if we add up some of our soft drink purchases over the week, it probably would quickly add up to $5. And if you balance that out with the needs for the students, and not only the needs for the students, because I know, some folks say, well, I don't really have any kids in school, I'm retired. You need to look at the effects on our economy.
What is the effect on our economy?
The Board of Realtors, who has supported the bond, they say, the first question out of most people's mouths when they come in to purchase a home is, I want to be in the best school district I can be in. I want to be where the schools are nice, where they're up to date, where they're good for my children. And that's not only for their children, but when they decide to resell that house, they want to still be in that good school district, because the property values for homes and businesses that are in good, strong school districts with updated schools, they are higher than homes and businesses that are located between schools that are woefully out of date. So that's very important.
Right.
And then just to look at the community as a whole, when we have new businesses come in, they want to know how good the schools are. They want to know if our schools are up to date, if their students are going to be able to attend those schools and come out as competitive members of society. You know, I feel like these are the students, the future of Wilmington, and we're turning them out to keep our community strong and growing. And
So it's an investment
Yes,
into the future of Wilmington, right?
Absolutely.
For people who have grandchildren or just want to see
True.
this community remain strong.
Right. You know, the folks that have moved here or retired here, they retired here because the community is strong and they want to keep it that way. And having good schools is that investment in the future.
Okay, so that is that investment.
Absolutely.
So what happens if the bond doesn't pass?
Well, then we have to go back to the list, and you start with the most in-need programs, and you work from there. But you know, the suggestion is we do pay as you go. The difficult question there is when you're building a $20 million school, pay as you go is very difficult to fund. So it becomes a very piecemeal process.
Right.
And for parents that have students in the program, the most cursed words are redistricting.
Right. And that could be a possibility.
Absolutely.
If
with
we
our
can't.
extreme numbers that we have coming in, they would have to redistrict annually, which means every year students and parents might be looking at going into a different school.
Right.
Because they would have to distribute those numbers across the schools. But with the bond funding, building that new school and repairing College Park and Blair and Wrightsville Beach and expanding them, that would take care of that growth numbers, and we could do one redistricting once they were all built, and that, you know, would be a much less burden on the children.
Right. And what about people who look at that list of 14 projects and they say, well, my school is not on there, you know, Bellamy's not on there, Mary C. Williams, and we know those schools need upgrading too. What about that?
Right. The list that we provided for the county commissioners was much longer than the 14, but
Right.
that was where we settled. And as I mentioned before, the county is good stewards of their money, so we're hoping that we'll get those 14 done and then have some money to continue down the list and maybe do some other projects at much needed schools. It also frees up additional funding, you know, if it becomes available, to then continue down that list and get programs done.
Right. But all schools will get some benefit,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. The big piece of the bond is security and technology. All schools countywide will get improved security system by means of cameras and protocol access systems, so people can't just waltz in the front door of our
Right.
schools anymore. It will really be a tightened up system, and all schools will benefit from that,
Right.
as well as the improvement in technology countywide.
Right. And we live in a time where that's just critical.
Oh, sure. And you know, the big piece of that is our middle schools, which will receive a lot of upgrading. We have middle school students that are right now taking high school classes, and they need that online access to get those classes taken. So we want to be sure that the technology is just as up to date as it can be. So that will be a piece that also affects all schools countywide.
Okay. So just quickly, I have to wrap up, but what do you want people to do?
The big thing is be informed. Don't just take another person's word for it.
Right.
Go on the school system's website. There is a bond logo. Click on that. It takes you to the bond website. It covers past bonds, the current bond. It lets you see everything, the numbers as they actually are. And, you know, get the details,
Right.
get the facts, and then make an informed decision. And then get out and tell other people. You know, the parents that support the bond can't just rest on the fact that they think it's an obvious go and it will
Right.
pass. They need to support, get out and vote, and also encourage their friends and family and neighbors to do the same.
Thank you so much, Ann. Remember, the education bond will be on the November 4th ballot. To find out more about the bond and to get any of your questions answered, visit the school district's website at www.nhcs.net. Then click on the bright red apple that says Education Bond. You'll be directed to a complete website loaded with all of the information about this important referendum on the November ballot. Now, when Diversity Matters returns, Maria Black will talk to Shannon Smiles, our new Director of Early Childhood Education. So don't go away, we'll be right back.
Michael Adams? Here. Michael Adams? Here.
Michael Adams.
Michael Adams.
Students who miss 18 days of school in any grade risk falling behind and not graduating. Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org today.
Welcome to this session of Diversity Matters. Today, I am speaking with Shannon Smiles, Director of Early Childhood Education for New Hanover County Schools. We're just going to learn all about what this new title means. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Maria.
Tell us early childhood education. What is all of that about?
Well, early childhood education is comprehensive services for our children, getting them ready to learn for kindergarten. And there's many components to it. It's a curriculum-based program, and it's for children who are going to kindergarten for the following year. So 4-year-olds are our priority. Comprehensive services such as health development and physical, social and emotional development, and then of course approaches to learning, and then literacy development and cognitive. And so with early childhood education, it's providing those high quality of early learning experiences prior to public education.
Okay. And what is the difference? We used to have what everybody knew as NC Pre-K. Is there a difference between what we had before in New Hanover County Schools and this program now?
Well, Maria, New Hanover County Schools is very committed to creating a solid foundation for early learning. And a large part of that is creating an early childhood education program to support the students and families and to support the staff who provide these early learning experiences. So our initiative and commitment to, as a system, is to be able to have some high quality people at the table,
okay,
and to get our families ready for school readiness along with our students, in supporting them in every effort for that.
Okay, so what is the age range?
The age range is, we're targeting 4-year-olds because again, federal government money and state money is directed towards those students that will be entering kindergarten. So priority goes to your 4-year-olds. And with your NC Pre-K and your Head Start, your NC Pre-K is your state funding and your Head Start is your federal government.
Okay.
So together we're going to combine those funding sources and we're going to create this early childhood education program to be able to bring those comprehensive services to New Hanover County.
Okay. Does that mean that the centers that have been known as private centers, are they also managed by your program?
Very interesting. So our community needs to realize that NC Pre-K state funds, they come to us as the contract administrators for New Hanover County Schools. And what we do is we create subcontracts to those approved sites in private setting, because the reality is, Maria, is they're all going to be coming to our kindergarten classrooms in our community. So in a group effort and in partnership and collaboratively with our professional development and our curriculum-based program, we're going to be able to provide those in all of our environments. And we contract those slots out for services for those private centers.
Okay.
And so they will be only receiving the state funds, but New Hanover County Schools, our early childhood education program, will be our Head Start funds, our Title I funds, and our state funds to provide those services in our public education setting.
Great. And then tell me about the criteria. Who meets eligibility?
Eligibility is set forth by your grant funding programs. So the federal government and the state came up with these guidelines and a criteria of risks.
Okay.
So you have to be eligible in order to be served, and we are only giving certain amount of slots and children that we can serve in our county. We don't get to pick those numbers and we don't get to pick our students. Those guidelines are given to us.
Okay.
What we do get to do is we do get to enforce those regulations so that we are abiding by all of our funding sources. So risk factors, income eligibility, subsidy, But the most important factor that our community needs to know is you do have to qualify, and we are very limited in our spaces.
Okay. Tell me about transportation and those other things that students from kindergarten and up are able to participate of. Is transportation provided? Is the day similar? They begin at 8 o'clock until 2:30. What is the day like?
Let's start with transportation. We are so blessed in our county to have offering pre-K transportation to our students. It is not required, it's a privilege, and many surrounding counties do not get to bus their students. But we know it's important with kindergarten readiness, with attendance, with tardiness, and getting them used to riding our buses, that it's very important. And so we're very lucky in our community to have that, and we do provide busing at limited stops, and we really hope in the future we can continue to do that. Our daily operation is at least 6.5 hours of operation for our students. And we do follow the traditional calendar, but we do have some work days for pre-kindergarten that are required by our funding sources. So several of those half-a-day professional development days and staff work days for pre-K, for our little ones, that's no school because we have to meet those regulations to provide that work day for the teachers.
And what about diversity? Can you share, boys, girls, who all makes a part of your group?
Well, diversity is something that we specialize in, that is happening all across our classrooms, depending on who qualifies. But we do have diversity. We do service special needs students. And we have lots of diversity backgrounds, lots of different cultures that we serve. I think we ended up having 3 different translators at one of our parent orientations. So we know that giving this diverse background, with our diversity background, we know that early learning is a great start before they get to kindergarten, getting them exposed to the way public schools are operated, and school readiness skills, again, I can't say enough. So it gives them a little bit of a leeway before they get to kindergarten.
Yes, it's definitely, I'm just so glad I've read actually more than one occasion about the impact of pre-K in those students when they go to kindergarten. There it's that level of readiness, and therefore, they move forward at a different pace than the counterpart that did not get the opportunity to attend. What about applications, enrollment? How is that working right now? Is there any spaces still available maybe for this year or not? From time to time I hear that parents are still calling, hoping to get their child in and already inquiring for next school year. So when is it the right time to start looking for that information?
Well, I'm excited to share with you that we just received expansion funds from our State Department. What does that mean in New Hanover County? That means that we are going to try every effort to provide services for additional 40, 60 students. We're now in that process. So I would like the community to know that by next week on our website, we will be able to have a universal pre-kindergarten application for this current school year to open that enrollment up again for this school year. And again, the 3-year-olds most likely will be on the waiting list. Our priority, due to our funding sources, is 4-year-olds. Therefore, but we're going to have them out to our schools in the next week or 2, and in our community, in our departments, in our community resources. So yeah, we're excited because that's a very important part of early intervention.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And again, give me a number. What is the number of students so far, as of today?
As of today, 793 served in public and private pre-kindergarten. And so, and one of our goals is to keep that happening and grow, and lead that path to early learning in our state. and we're excited about that.
That's wonderful. Well, you have shared a wealth of information, and I'm sure that the viewing audience is excited, and I know that some telephones are going to be ringing and some doors are going to be knocked at, with some people definitely wanting to take advantage of those 40 or 60 spots that are coming.
We're eager to help them.
That's wonderful. Well, I just thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me, Maria.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you would like more information about the pre-K program, please contact 254-4390 or log into the website at www.nhcs.net. Again, that number is 910-254-4390 or www.nhcs.net. Now, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Kids will spend 8 minutes decorating their little brother.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Diversity Matters. If you'd like more information about our district's ESL program, call Maria Black at 254-4202. And please feel free to call the New Hanover County Schools Public Relations Department at 254-4245 if you have a story idea for future editions of Diversity Matters. Until next time, I'm Valita Quattlebaum, and on behalf of my co-host Maria Black, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next month right here on Diversity Matters.